Hey guys! Okay, so since my content over how to avoid the crowds at the Vatican got such an amazing response, I figured I would try something new and do something I've never done before, which is post a longer form video about that same subject on YouTube and really cover it in detail based on the questions and comments that I got on that reel. So this is really to explain in way more detail than what you can capture in a 90-second reel, how to avoid the crowds at the Vatican. The first thing is to book early. Basically, as soon as you know that you're going to Rome, you should book tickets to the Vatican museums. And even if you don't go with a tour, the Vatican museums sell tickets that are timed entry, similar to tickets that you would buy like at the Louvre in France, where you have a timed entry, which is considered like a fast pass, where you don't have to wait in line to buy tickets. And the only line you wait in is the security checkpoint. To go through the security checkpoint, it doesn't take as long. So even if you don't do a tour, definitely book your fast pass timed entry tickets as early as possible, especially in 2025, because there's a Catholic Jubilee happening in 2025, and there will be lots of pilgrims flocking to Rome throughout the year. Now, I still do highly recommend a tour, even though Vatican City is the smallest country in the world. It is still huge. I was enormously glad to have a tour guide that knew how to navigate, how to get through all the crowds, where to stop, like what to look at. So again, you don't have to do a tour, but it is one less line to wait in for the audio guide. And I do highly recommend doing a tour. The lines do wrap around the whole country, probably especially in 2025. So again, tours are really great, especially tours that go into the gardens or into the necropolis. So there are tours that go into the gardens, but you have to book the garden specific slot on your own through the Vatican Museum website. So you have to book that, and then you can book a tour once you have that ticket that allows you to have one of those limited slots. You can then book a tour that specifically allows the tour guide to take you into the gardens. The gardens are an underappreciated area of the Vatican. Everybody goes into the museums, everybody goes to the Sistine Chapel, but the gardens make up like 80% of the country. There's a lot of ground, there's a lot to see. And because the tickets into the gardens are limited, you basically eliminate all the crowds of the Vatican by getting through that ticket. You can still see the museums and the Sistine Chapel. It's just that part of your tour will be in the gardens where nobody else gets to go. The same thing is for the necropolis. All of this is on my blog post, but the necropolis is something specific where you have to book through the Vatican. You can't book a separate third-party tour to the necropolis. You can book a Vatican-led tour into the necropolis. And again, it's very limited. You have to email the Vatican and let them know that you're interested in having a tour. And then they'll take you down into the necropolis, again, with a very limited space. It's a very unique way to see the Vatican. It's a way that most people don't see the Vatican. And you would get to see the tomb of St. Peter. So you would be able to see all of this stuff in the gardens or in the necropolis that you normally wouldn't see, or people normally visiting the Vatican wouldn't see. Now, I got a lot of comments around the fact that you don't need a tour, and you really don't. But if you don't have a tour, you should probably try to book the timed entry for times that are outside peak hours. So a lot of people on Instagram said to book your timed entry for sometime after lunch, when a lot of those people who are trying to get there first thing in the morning have cleared out. I think the Vatican is open until 6 in the winter and then 7 in the summer. So you can go in the afternoon and kind of hopefully see it with less people once all the morning crowd has cleared out and gone to do something else in Rome. That is not a guarantee, especially during the Jubilee, but it is something that you can try for to see if that helps you minimize the crowds. If you do, I mean, we went in the morning, so I don't know, but if you do go, let me know, and if how little the crowds are and if it's a better experience overall. I'd be really curious to know. Another kind of like hidden gem that a lot of people don't know about at the Vatican is there is a cafe at the very top of St. Peter's Basilica. And when you go up there, you would get the best views of all of Rome. Now, a lot of people think that the cafe I'm talking about is the cafe that's actually in the Vatican museums. That is not the cafe I'm talking about. A lot of people said it's overpriced and not that good. I'm sure that's true. That's typical of all museum cafes, in my opinion. But this is actually in the top of St. Peter's Basilica. So it's not in the Vatican museums, it's in the Basilica itself. You would need to buy tickets, separate tickets, that allow you to take the elevator that goes up to the top of St. Peter's Basilica. Now, I think you can climb the stairs and the ticket is less if you climb the stairs. But this is not recommended for people with a fear of tight spaces. It is very, very tight and twisty up there. So if you have a fear of tight spaces, I mean, you may not want to go at all if you have a fear of tight spaces, but definitely buy the ticket for the elevator. The elevator will take you to the top. There is a little espresso cafe up there. And then if you want to, and again, you're not claustrophobic, you can continue on and climb the rest of the stairs to the dome. So you can actually go all the way up into the dome and see the views from the very, very top of St. Peter's Basilica. So all those views that you see that are looking down on St. Peter's Square, that look out over like all of Rome, and you can kind of see all the like the Roman architecture and the parallel lines and things. That picture is taken from the top of St. Peter's Basilica. And so it's not like a drone shot, or I think usually it's not a drone shot. It is people that go up in there. And a lot of people don't know that that's a separate ticket that you can buy and that you can go up into the dome of St. Peter's Basilica. Again, it is super tight and twisty up there. I hope to get back there and actually film what it's like to get up in there, but I don't have that footage for you, so hopefully you can find it on other places of YouTube, but it is something that you can do. Another thing to keep in mind is that the Vatican does not have central air conditioning. So the Vatican museums are not centrally air conditioned. In the summer in Rome, it gets extremely hot. When you have all that heat and all those crowds, it can get really, really uncomfortable. And we had a lot of people in our family, in our tour group, that felt kind of faint. Now, they have fans that move as you move through each room of the Vatican museums, but they're just like little tiny wall fans. And so, definitely come prepared especially if you're visiting in summer or during a hotter period, with like a portable fan, plenty of water, things like that, because Rome gets extremely hot and Vatican City gets extremely hot in the summer, and there is no central air conditioning in the museum. As far as it goes for other things to do in Rome, a couple of the other really, really popular tourist sites is the Trevi Fountain. The Trevi Fountain is gorgeous. It is worth visiting. Some people say it's not worth visiting. It is absolutely beautiful. It's so gorgeous. They are now limiting crowds at the Trevi Fountain to 400 people, which is still a ton of people, but before it was like really, really packed. You could get 1,000 people in there. The only way to beat the crowds at the Trevi Fountain is to get up as early as possible and get there like as the light is cracking, like as dawn is cracking. You should be at the Trevi Fountain. There will still be people there, but it will be way less, way more manageable, and you'll be able to take really good, pretty pictures and videos of the Trevi Fountain. Another really popular site is the Colosseum. The Colosseum is obviously super crowded too. There's tons of tours that go in there. But when thinking about visiting the Colosseum, I would highly recommend to book a tour that goes underneath and hits the arena floor of the Colosseum. So it, again, kind of similar to the Vatican and going into the necropolis, taking a tour that goes underneath the Colosseum allows you to see the Colosseum in a really unique way, a way a lot of people don't get to see the Colosseum. Underneath is where they had all those huge doors that allowed the animals and the gladiators onto the arena floor. So you'll get to see all of that. Like, that is such a unique thing to see. Plus you'll get to go down onto the arena floor and kind of see the Colosseum looking up, right? Like, you would get to see how it feels or how it felt to have been a gladiator in that position, where most people tour the Colosseum from above and kind of see the arena floor going down. You would have a totally different perspective by booking a tour that goes underneath the Colosseum and goes onto the arena floor and looks up. Finally, there are catacombs in Rome similar to the ones that are in Paris. They are different because they're like 1,000 years older than the ones in Paris, and they've mostly been like marauded and raided over the years, so there's no bones that are left, but you can see the graves of people who used to be in the catacombs, which I thought was really interesting. They were all really small, so I didn't realize that ancient Romans were so tiny. I think the average ancient Roman, they said, average like 5 feet. Like, that was good for a male. So they were really tiny, and all the graves in the catacombs are really small. But it was really interesting to see how those catacombs compare, especially to the ones in France. Now, again, if you have a fear of tight spaces, this is not recommended, but they are way more wide than the ones in Paris, in my opinion. So like, they're a lot more easier to manage and get through, and they're not quite so tight. It is very cool down there. So we were visiting in the summer, and it was a huge relief to be down into the catacombs because it was like 20 degrees cooler in the catacombs than it was outside. So if you're there in the summer and you're looking for something to beat the heat, the catacombs will definitely help you do that. Usually at the end of most catacomb tours, you can go to where the Capuchin monks are, and they have the bones that have been decorated in all kinds of weird designs and ways. So you can see all these bones from the Capuchin monks and see how they decorated it in weird ways. It's pretty cool. It wasn't my most favorite thing to do in Rome, but it was really interesting to learn that side. And again, I think the catacombs get a little bit ignored amongst all the other tourist sites in Rome, and especially because they don't look at like the ones in Paris. That I thought it was like an interesting kind of alternative tour for you to do in Rome. So that's it. That's all I have for you. Hopefully this was really helpful, like explaining it in a more detailed way. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions that I can address, and if not, I'll try to look up the information and give you a resource. I have way more detail in my blog post, but hopefully this long form video was really helpful. Give me some feedback and let me know if you want to see more of these, and something I can start to do on my channel. So thanks, see ya.